Happy Independence Day, everybody, and welcome to the first ever We Got This podcast crossover event. What better day to do it than on the day of our nation's birth, unless you live in another country, in which case, happy 4th of July, which is just another day to you. We recorded this episode back in April with Ben Blacker and Heath Corson of the Nerdist Comic Writers panel. If you don't subscribe to that podcast already, it's a great part of the Nerdist network. Ben and Heath are both as knowledgeable as they are charming and charming as they are knowledgeable, which is a lot. But you may notice in this one, we keep referencing Heath Corson's Bizarro comic. It, at the time, had not been released, but is now available in stores. So go to your local comic shop, pick up Bizarro, written by Heath Corson. It is fantastic stuff. And while you're at it, why not get the Sparks, Nevada and Beyond Belief comics written by Ben Blacker and Mr. Ben Acker? If you love the Thrilling Adventure Hour, and if you're listening to this, you probably do, you'll love those comics. They really capture the stage show extremely well. We've done adaptations of them in Chicago. We have one coming up in New York. They're really great comics. So check those out and support the Thrilling Adventure Hour family. If you don't have your tickets to see We Got This recording live at the BAM Fest during San Diego Comic-Con, you're in luck. They're still available. All you have to do is go to thebamfest.com and click the tickets link at the top of the page. Finally, if you're enjoying this podcast, and Mark and I sincerely hope that you are, please take a second to review and rate us on iTunes. It really does help new people discover the podcast. And isn't that what you want? To be in a large community of people sharing ideas and opinions and thoughts. And if you don't, never mind. Just listen to the episode, okay? Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all, Marvel or DC?
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcasts should have a theme song. Podcasts should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, what's up? My name is Mark.
And I'm Hal.
And thanks for listening to We Got This.
This is a very exciting episode. This is the one we teased in like episode 2 that you said we were going to do as a joke. And then everybody was like, when are you going to do Marvel versus DC? The answer is right now we're going to do it.
Yes.
And we have 2 very special guests who are friends of ours and each write for one of the opposing companies. We have Thrilling Adventure Hour co-creator and writer Ben Blacker.
That's me.
And we have Heath Corson, a very hilarious person and a writer also.
Yeah!
So Heath has written Batman Unlimited. He's written Justice League War, which is an animated film that was so good, I actually teared up watching it. That is
Look at that.
And also Batman Arkham Assault.
Assault on Arkham.
Assault on
Very
Arkham.
close.
They
yes.
changed it, actually.
They changed it.
It's a new title. So say it the way I did.
Okay, good.
Great. And Ben, along with his partner Ben
also,
Acker. Yes.
Justice League, Throne of Atlantis.
Keep going more?
No,
forthcoming.
And maybe forthcoming, but they haven't announced.
No, the comic.
Yet. Oh, and the comic, my upcoming Bizarro comic
that's
for
great.
DC.
Holy
which
crap.
drops in June.
How excited are you?
So I have done more animated movies than any single author yet.
And your work is fantastic.
Well, thank you very much.
If you've not seen any of those, check them out.
DC.
Well, wait a minute.
Blacker's on the other side of the coin. He and Acker have written Thunderbolts.
True.
And Deadpool.
Correct.
And Wolverine Season 1.
Yes.
So you've handled some iconic Marvel characters.
When it did so well, when season 2 coming out?
We're still hoping for pickup.
Are you doing them one episode at a time for season 2?
Yeah.
We're hoping for the pickup.
Is that how Marvel does it? They just sort of cancel you after one season?
We and Agent Carter are hoping.
Gentlemen, let's keep this civil. I want to establish some ground rules.
All right.
I want to talk about comics exclusively because DC has a much longer pedigree than Marvel, but Marvel certainly has been a pioneering and influential force in culture. And the comics alone give us enough to talk about. If we go into films, this could take forever, and TV as well.
I'm going to go ahead right now and say that you might not hear from me at all this episode because I came into this not as a comic book guy, really, and was pretty much banking on the fact that I could at least talk about the Marvel movies that I've seen. So I'm going to go and
good seeing you, Mark.
Yeah.
And make some chocolate chip cookies.
What's your initial impression, though? Do you know who's in which universe?
Yes, I know who is in which universe.
Can we quiz him?
Let's do a quick pop quiz.
Okay.
Good, here we go.
I will preface this with, and I said this to the guys earlier, I will be in I will be in full supportive girlfriend mode.
Okay.
We're gonna go around the horn. Heath, you want
That's offensive to the internet.
I'll go first.
Probably.
Black Panther. Marvel or DC?
DC.
Wrong.
Okay.
Captain Marvel.
Marvel.
And DC.
Wait, what?
That's a trick question. There's 2 Captain Marvels.
All right.
That was BS.
That was tough.
Yeah, that could have gone either way. All right.
Mysterio.
Right, either way.
Yeah, there we go. Mysterio.
Marvel.
All right.
Right, correct.
Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, Marvel.
Oh,
You mean Superman's the
Oh, yeah. Shoot. Listen, I'm terrible at this. You said you wanted to do this topic as an episode, and I went, sure, all right.
Oh, I
knowing full well that I would be doing none of the heavy lifting today.
Let me also
We
toss
just have
in
to take a baseline, though.
yeah.
the Hulk.
Marvel.
Okay,
Great.
No. Jimmy Olsen, yes, I know Jimmy Olsen. He's the photographer.
So that is your background. I grew up reading comics. My father is a huge comic reader and
This is
collector
Hal
to this day. I'm Hal Loveland, co-host. Thank you, Ben, for the introduction. Now Ben has to narrate me. How do you like the narration?
Oh.
It's fun, isn't it? It's great. Yeah. I grew up reading comics. I started when I was younger with DC, and then I feel like when I hit my teens, I switched to Marvel, and that feels to me to be the path that people traditionally took. And I was reading a lot of Silver Age stuff when I was that age. So I was like Silver Age DC, then the darker 1970s stuff I wasn't so much into. By that point, I was reading like classic X-Men, so I was going through Dark Phoenix Saga and a lot of Todd McFarlane Spider-Man stuff that was happening in the 80s.
You get a little taste for the darker. You circle back around. You do a Dark Knight Returns.
Sure.
You do a Watchmen.
Yes.
You do a V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
You go full deep dive into an Alan Moore phase, which is what happens to all of us after we're teenagers.
Of course.
Sorry, I just fell asleep while you were saying that.
Oh yeah.
So
What? You
mentioned
were on
Watchmen.
the Spider Clone saga?
I actually was. Oh yeah, no, I stuck with it through all of the garbage. But I had a similar thing to you, Hal. That was some Marvel, but mostly DC was my introduction as like a 10, 11-year-old, and then outgrew it and liked the Marvel stuff. And then I went back and forth for a while, but like DC wasn't exciting through the 90s. I read Batman. I always read Batman, no matter who was writing him. But there was nothing. I don't remember attaching to anything in the 90s.
How about you?
I was still doing Justice League Unlimited during the 90s because that went all the way through. There was some good Batman stuff still. The Cult, I remember. There was some cool Deadman stuff, the Kelly Jones Deadman stuff, I remember. I started really young. I remember being like 5, 6, when my parents would take me to supermarkets and they had those little blue ribbon digests that they used to sell right by the supermarket checkout lines. And my mom would give me one of those because they were like 99 cents. And those were reprints of DC stories from the 50s, 60s, 70s, which was really cool because it was the first time I sort of realized like, oh, these characters are slightly elastic. Like the character in this version of Superman is the same Superman later, but the stories seemed so radically different. And then, of course, when you get into your teenage years, nobody understands you, and you read X-Men, and right, you pout
Because Marvel is relatable.
Yeah.
Always relatable.
All BS bluster aside, I read both at all times, I think. I don't think I ever left one for the other. I think there were times when I was clearly reading more of one company, and there was times I was reading less. But then I always would get back into one thing and then the other.
Yeah, no, that's true. Me too, really.
So we're talking about relatability with Marvel versus DC. Like, what would you say is the main characteristic of DC? Like, what is it that makes a DC comic a DC comic? Well,
I will say, and this is something that we've talked about a lot. Is
on our hit podcast.
Our hit podcast, the Nerdist Writers Panel, Comics Edition.
Which is fantastic. Check it out.
These are characters that have been around for 75 years, where the Marvel characters have only been around for 45 years. So the DC heroes were born from propaganda. And so they were about truth, justice, the American way, about standing up for what's right. So there is a very black and white, almost sanctimonious nostalgia to these characters, which is why they've had to been rebooted and reconfigured a lot to sort of fit the modern age. We've had to sort of go back and redefine them to make them relevant. So I think there is a bigger learning curve there with the DC heroes because they have such a long history.
They're also, and I think we've talked about this too on our podcast, with Len Wein, who co-hosted with us, who created Wolverine and Swamp Thing and worked for both companies since the 60s. But the DC characters are icons. You're writing gods very often instead of people.
Right.
They are ideas or ideals instead of everymen.
Right. And the Marvel heroes tend to be more flawed because they were a product of the time, of the 60s, when they were a response to the big, brash icons, the gods. So they were like, well, let's make something else. Peter Parker is an everyman. Peter Parker can't pay his rent. He's got a sick aunt. Like, he's got problems that the kids reading that had. Sure. And automatically became more relatable, and that sort of became the tone of their books.
Yeah, Hulk has an anger problem.
Right.
X-Men are outcasts, like you say, like any teenager.
Captain America's a white guy.
Sure. Not anymore.
No.
Right, but
they're changing.
When I think about Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, I mark it by DC. I don't mark it by Marvel. I know Marvel emerged during the Silver Age, but the Golden Age stuff, and my father had this paperback book that must have come out in the 70s. It was like Secret Origins of the DC Universe. It was a black cover book, and it had the first Wonder Woman, the original, what is his name? Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, the original Flash, Jay Garrick.
Work on wood.
Yeah.
Couldn't control anything.
So you could hide behind a door.
And it was a ring. It was made of a lamp, right? It was like, first the lamp will bring death, then it will bring life, and then it will bring power. Yeah. So he got it the third time.
He got the lamp. Like a genie.
Like, those were the original characters. And then they completely rebooted them, and the 60s versions are in there as well. Mm-hmm. The later Flash, the later, the Green Lantern as we know him now, the Hal Jordan, which is now broken off into the Green Lantern Corps. Which is that's an area for me that I always connected that character at first because his name was also Hal, but there's something, it doesn't really. I just like to hear my name and see it in print.
It's the reason I listen to Marky Mark.
Your favorite musical artist.
Yeah.
But, for me, what I love about that character and what it captures, maybe in a way Marvel doesn't, is it's about imagination. Yes, he's a god character, but it's really about there's no limit to your imagination. That you need to find courage within yourself and sort of eliminate fear. So those are still important things to learn, as much as realizing with great power comes great responsibility. So then where do you what DC stuff do you like, Ben?
I did always read DC. I mean, I was sort of in the same boat that Heath was describing, that, I did go kind of back and forth over the years when I was reading regularly, generally leaning more one way or the other, depending what the companies had going on. I really got into Flash in the 90s. I think when Mark Waid...
It was Mark Waid's Flash. It was the Wally West.
And that was my Flash.
Yeah.
Because
mine too.
It felt like a Marvel character. He was very much a flawed kind of everyman character who felt the weight of this legacy on him, as we all do.
And he had weaknesses. I think even in the first book, it was like, he runs and then he has to eat a whole big stack of cheeseburgers because he's like, my metabolism will eat itself if I don't keep fueling it. And I was like, and I don't think I'd ever seen anything like that added to that.
And there were there were smart, kind of one and done stories that he did for a while. I will never forget, there were 2 issues I will never forget. One that all took place as Flash. Someone shot, I think, his girlfriend at the beginning.
Yes.
Right?
Was it a movie theater?
I think it was in a movie theater.
And he feels the bullet in the back of his neck, and then he gets up and
the whole issue is him trying to stop this bullet before it does anything. So it's all in hyper speed, but it's all slowed down. It was beautifully
It was
done.
a
And then
great
around
idea.
that same time was Falling Out of an Airplane. Do you remember that one?
Uh-huh.
He was holding the stewardess as they were sucked out of an airplane, and he just had to run in air to try to slow their landing in time to stop. And that was the whole issue. It was, again, really smart, really simple, and it's just you're with the character in a way that you weren't often in Superman's head.
Right.
You know, I think you talked, Hal, about the unlimited imagination or you know, the only limit was their imagination. That was always my problem with, especially the classic DC. They were too big. It was too hard to wrap your head around. Like, Superman is too big of a concept. He's too powerful, which is why I always did like Batman, because it's just a guy. And the more power you gave to Batman, the less interesting he became.
Sure. Heath, for your perspective, what Marvel characters are you still drawn to? What do you read? What stands out in the same way that the Flash?
I remember loving the Avengers when I was a kid, and it was the time when Beast was in it and Wonder Man was in it, and Wasp, and I just loved that pairing. I thought Wonder Man and Beast's friendship was always so awesome. I don't know why. I just thought it was really fun. And then there actually was a Bob Layton Hercules miniseries that I thought was fantastic. That it was sort of Hercules goes off into this Greek god, gets shot off into space, and then has sort of like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy experience in space.
I never read that.
Oh, it's so funny. Hercules Prince of Power was called. And then they spun that Avengers group off into West Coast Avengers, and I remember loving West Coast Avengers.
Vision and Scarlet Witch, their relationship.
And Hawkeye and Mockingbird, and I thought I really connected to those guys. I thought that was very cool. Also, I was unabashedly a Power Pack reader when I was a kid. I loved Power Pack because they were kids, and I was a kid, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're kids with superpowers. It was so goofy, but awesome. It was like proto Runaways. But I loved it. I always thought that was great.
Does that hold up? I think you told me you read that again
I don't
recently.
know that it does. Runaways holds up.
Runaways for sure does.
I don't know that Power Pack holds up.
What about you, Mark? I know you're not a huge comics fan, but you read comics as a kid, right?
No.
Never.
No.
But
I honestly, I've read maybe 24 comics in my life.
Nice.
I read yours. Yeah. Yes, I read the Sparks Nevada comic.
Because your
Is that Marvel or
in it.
DC?
Yeah.
What's Croach?
Oh,
is Croach Marvel or is Croach DC?
Croach is Marvel. He's an everyman.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't been watching these shows, have you?
Uh-oh.
He's very weird.
I would love to hear a perspective on the Thrilling Adventure Hour from Croach.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks it's about him.
I feel like
Totally he thinks it's about him.
I feel like there's like a mix. If you were to take all of those segments of the Thrilling Adventure Hour and mix them up, there are some DC and there are some Marvel. Captain Laserbeam is super DC, and
Super
Phil Fathom
DC.
also.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, even Beyond Belief is kind of DC.
kind of DC,
If you think
sure.
about it, there's no problem that they cannot solve at all.
No, Sparks is the real Marvel hero.
Yeah, he's constantly put upon, and then the USSA extension of that. So there's definitely an influence of both. But I know Acker's also more of a Marvel guy.
Oh, for sure.
So you guys both like that sort of influences your work. But
Captain Laserbeam is very DC. He has no
very
flaws.
DC. That's right.
yeah,
Well, it was modeled in the beginning on the 60s Batman. On the Adam West Batman.
yeah.
I never got to write my Captain Laserbeam idea. I had such a great one. Really?
We'll do a comic.
Nice.
He
If
lives
we
on.
get through tonight.
Yeah, right?
What superheroes in general stood out to you as a kid?
I mean, not being a guy that knew it, I liked Batman. I liked Superman. It was mostly the DC guys. I didn't really know because they were the iconic
DC
ones.
guys.
Right.
And I liked Wonder Woman because, as my mom will tell you, she came in one day when my brother and I were watching Wonder Woman on television, and she said, "Oh, what are you guys watching?" We both said, "Wonder Woman." And my brother said, "I like her legs." And I said, "I like her boobs." And my mom walked out of the room.
And that remains true to this day.
Yep.
That's right.
We were very, very small children. So, that is my comic book world is.
I like that she
I like to watch it on television.
Her lasso.
Her lasso.
Her lasso.
Her Brockers
Yeah,
to
they are.
look at the
But I read some one off, like I read Watchmen and, some like,
Oh, stop it.
Watchmen
The Citizen
is so
Kane of comic books.
more boring than Citizen Kane.
I think I disagree.
I loved Watchmen.
I loved Watchmen. I read
You were
Watchmen.
high. You were both high when you read it.
No, I read
I've never
Watchmen in
smoked
real
pot.
time. I read Watchmen in real time when it was
Did you?
coming out, to the point where I went to camp when issue 11 and 12 when it came out, and I made my dad go to my store and buy them for me and send them to me at camp.
I didn't know that those ever came out in short form. I just assumed Alan Moore was like, this is a novel.
I just
Yeah.
there's Watchmen, and I will call it Watchmen.
Yeah. I'm making comics important. I just assume that's what he talks.
My next turn I'll call V for Vendetta.
We're just doing Anton LaVey impressions at this point, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is that Swamp Thing's dad?
Marvel!
Oh, I was also a big Howard the Duck fan. I loved the
sure.
funny comics. I loved Howard the Duck.
I remember having like some of the 70s Howard the Duck, some of the early ones that my dad had with like Star Wog and stuff like that. Really fun character.
The guy was an alien, came to our dimension where nothing was the same. Like, there were no ducks anywhere. And he seduces a hot redhead to sleep with him. He's not even a human. He's a duck. And he can walk into another dimension.
He looks like Disneyland Donald.
He looks like Disneyland Donald. He's like, you, hot redhead, you're my new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then he smokes, and then he drinks, and he moves into her apartment, and she's cool with it.
It was the 70s, to be fair. A lot of
fair.
people were doing that even without interdimensional
I was
ducks.
like, this guy's rad.
This gave misguided confidence to too many young men in the 70s.
With big noses.
Here's the other thing is when Star Wars was adapted into a comic in the 70s, they went to Marvel. And I don't know if that was a bidding war that Marvel won with money, but it felt like it was a better fit
There's no way to know.
for Marvel. We'll never know because George
well,
Lucas has been dead for 10
Looking
years. A lot
at
of people
it
should know.
now,
By the time we release it.
now Marvel has the Star Wars license again, and it does feel like a good fit.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
Isn't that just because it's all under Disney, though?
Yeah, but it also makes sense. It's also logical. I mean, just as it's logical for Marvel to be part of Disney. You know, like these are sort of bright, colorful, fun characters in the way that Disney does.
But they're also
Shout out to the Star Wars comic and Jordan White at Crackshot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and the comics that Jordan is editing, all the Star Wars comics, it's treating Star Wars characters as if they are Marvel characters in a way, right?
Right.
They're very relatable. It's not grandiose. It's not episodes 1, 2, 3 Star Wars where you can't connect with the characters.
Right.
It's the
Well, and make no mistake, all comics are attempting to treat characters in the Marvel way now. I mean, I think even DC is attempting to do that with a lot of their, like, at the end of New 52 and the beginning of the June relaunch, there is an attempt they were even doing it with Batgirl. Like, it was really the Batgirling of everything.
This is what I wanted to talk about, because you know more about this than I do. Like, we've seen in the past few years where Marvel has really taken a chance on whether it's independent creators or just giving writers a very specific voice, like Charles Soule's She-Hulk, in which She-Hulk was a lawyer, or Squirrel Girl, or there are a few other.
Or even Fraction doing Hawkeye.
Yeah, Fraction's Hawkeye. Like, these are all very specific creators' points of view. And then it all started around the time DC relaunched, where everything was the same. There was a company style. But now DC seems to sort of be coming around, and we've seen Batgirl got a revamp. Gotham Academy, which we talked about recently, which I absolutely love.
It's great.
Has the feel of like classic X-Men in a really fun way, but it's in Gotham. So it's using what already exists, but letting creators put their mark on it. Heath Bizarro is absolutely in line with this stuff. Like, it's 100% Heath. Like, it's really funny. It's really well written. The art is
great.
What is
the artist is named Gustavo Duarte, and he's from Brazil. And it's very animated. It's very heightened. Like, it's very cartoony, but it's radically
looks like a Nickelodeon
different.
cartoon.
It does.
In a great way.
It does.
But so beyond these titles, I can't remember what else was announced for relaunch, but beyond these, are we going to see DC sort of doing what Marvel has done the past 10 years and giving creators a stronger voice or giving them more of a hand in the direction of their books?
I hope so. I mean, we saw it. There's been little pockets where all of a sudden you look over there and you realize that people are running away with the work that they're doing, like Jimmy and Amanda on Harley Quinn, that has been sort of under the radar, and yet a huge, like, 75,000 book per month. That's a huge book. And they're just doing this sort of chaotic, practically a Deadpool book. It's almost a Deadpool book starring Harley Quinn, where she just runs around and gets involved in stuff and kills people and knocks them out. And then you realize, like, wait, that's been sort of flying under the radar. And I think there's more to come in that vein. You're going to see Batmite. You're going to see, they went back to Garth Ennis and said, do Section 8 from Hitman, that's right. Which is the craziest. Like, the art is nuts. The characters are nuts. There's a character called the Dog Welder who welds dogs to people.
Let it sink in, everybody.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So here's another question, just to sort of follow the path we were on before. What in Marvel and DC, what characters don't you like and why? And then I'll ask the same thing of Ben. Yeah, so I want to ask
what
Heath.
Characters don't I like?
So we've heard four each. Let's hear against each.
I was never a big Colossus fan. Okay. Colossus.
That's very specific.
I never liked Colossus.
Here's a sea-level character.
No, I'm just
not super into it.
I'm way into Colossus.
Who likes Colossus?
Russians.
They like Rocket Red.
They do like Rocket Red. X-Men completists.
Sure.
People who want to see Kitty Pryde unhappy.
Mark, do you know who Colossus is?
I have no idea who any of these characters
He's a giant...
I checked out an hour ago.
He's a giant Russian farm boy whose mutant ability is to turn his body into steel.
Okay. That seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Sure.
It never backfires, especially...
Are we talking stainless or tempered?
Yeah, he always has rust. That's how you can tell.
Questions that no one ever asks.
Yeah.
For 1,000.
This is why they need to 1,000.
1,000.
Do you know how numbers work?
No. Is that part of this podcast?
Hal, cut this out.
How do numbers work?
This is good. This is the only part I'm going to keep is he's saying 1,000. I want to make 1,000 t-shirts.
Yeah,
we're going to go the whole line.
That's my name of my new movie. It's the 10th sequel to the 300.
If you thought 300 guys was bad.
What do you mean? I did it totally right.
Besides Colossus, who else don't you care for?
Are there any like big characters? Yeah, that's a good
characters that matter.
Superman was always hard for me, just because, like Ben said, he's the big god sort of running around.
May I interject for a moment?
Yeah, please. Sure.
Are there Superman stories that you think are successful?
Yes. There are early 50s and 60s stories that I just adored.
Really?
Where he Superman Red, Superman Blue. I always
oh my god!
Great.
It's hilarious that you say that. That is exactly what went through my head. For the people who are listening at home who are not huge nerds,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
There are different kinds of kryptonite in the Superman universe. Green kryptonite, we all know, is what makes him weak.
We
Red
all
kryptonite,
know this.
There's like a gold kryptonite that will kill him if he ever touches it. There is a red kryptonite that is completely unpredictable, so you don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, that sounds like story generator.
Yeah, yes.
I think, isn't it Lex Luthor who exposes him to red kryptonite?
Yes.
And what it does is splits him into two Supermen. One with a completely red suit, one with a completely blue suit. Both of them nice.
Yeah.
So then it becomes like, now he can have his high school sweetheart and Lois Lane.
They're literally sitting on a mountaintop, like with their head in their hands going like, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know. What are you going to do? It's like, well, we should go and like date women.
So they're the crows from Dumbo?
Yes. Yeah. And he goes, who do you want to go after? And it's like, oh, I know who I want. Well, who do you want? He's like, I know who I want. So they go, well, let's make iron L's with the names that we want. And let's see if lightning will hit one of us first. And then two-pronged lightning hits both L's. And then they're like, well, now what? I always wanted Lana. And the other one goes, I always wanted Lois. And then they're like, hacha. And then they go off. And this
is the Waiting for Godot of comic.
Yeah. I swear to God, this is what happens.
Absolutely.
In this comic.
A conflict-free story.
Yes. And then they go off and they like have kids. One has kids. I think one moves to.
One stays on Earth and one takes the city of Kandor and rebuilds Krypton. Because the two of them can get twice as much done.
Yes.
Yes.
In like 8 pages, I think.
My favorite screen is they're talking to each other via like whatever Skype would have been in the 50s.
They're like FaceTiming.
And Lois is in the background vacuum cleaning on Krypton while the two super babies fly around the room in their onesies.
Is this a 70s story?
Yeah. No, it was the 60s.
Like
and
or
Superman
60s.
Red, who went on Krypton, got Streaky the Wonder Horse, and I think Beppo the Super Monkey.
Streaky the cat.
What was the name of the horse?
I don't know. I think his name was just Super Horse.
It might have been.
And then the dog.
Beppo, the super monkey.
Yeah, and then the dog is Crypto. Crypto stayed on Earth.
Crypto stayed on Earth.
Of course.
Because, he's like, look, I live here. I know all the great smells here. I'm not leaving. Don't give me to another planet. I don't remember Crypto.
Why is your suit totally blue now? Screw it. I don't care.
I'm colorblind. I don't know which one's which.
Yeah, I'm a dog. Nice
dog.
gray suit that you've always worn.
2 masters. Oh, how awesome. Give me treats.
Always more.
I can't wait. I have all these superpowers, yet I'm still a slave animal.
No.
How has this happened?
Yeah.
Damn food chain.
This sounds terrible.
I know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
This sounds terrible. You're
What
not
about you?
convincing me.
No? What about you? Were there characters that you totally didn't like?
Actively disliked? I will say in Marvel, I sort of had the same problem with like Thor that I had with a lot of the DC characters. That he's just too powerful, and I couldn't wrap my head around what he could do or who he was. And it was all that stuff that the writers loved writing, all of the kind of faux Shakespearean dialogue. I hated reading.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked the Simonson arc on Thor. Like I always got into the mythology of it.
Yeah. I'd be curious to read it now.
Yeah.
But as a kid, like because I loved Spider-Man and the Hulk and X-Men, which just felt very grounded to me. Thor was always difficult. But yeah, then the DC ones, again, I love Batman. I don't think until recently there have been great Wonder Woman stories. Like there are ones that are enjoyable enough to read, but they all feel very dated.
Red Tornado bugged me a little bit. The sort of like Tin Man thing of it all. I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're an android.
B-level characters.
Well, B-level like Vision. I was like, come on, you're a Vision wannabe.
Well, even Vision, I never really caught into. Because I think that he's kind of loaded with backstory also, which a lot of the stuff in the 80s was. So even Wolverine, I never got much into until I had to do a deep dive to write him.
Yeah.
Because like I knew enough. Like I knew him from appearances in every single book through the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
But it was so bogged down with history that like it was just hard to connect to because everything referenced something that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid loving the angry, like kill everybody heroes, like the Lobos and like your Punishers and your Deadpools, and then getting older and going back and not having them hold up for me because I go, there's no stakes to this character. Like this character doesn't want anything until Jerry Dugan came and did Deadpool. Duggan.
Yeah.
So Jerry Duggan.
Yeah.
Came and did Deadpool. Did that character never made any sense to me?
Well,
because
Duggan,
it's just like, I'll just run around.
Jerry and Brian Posehn, who co-writes it with him, gave Deadpool some gravity
and stakes.
Yeah, he made it count.
Yeah.
I was going to say I was never a Punisher fan. Mark, do you know the Punisher?
I do know the Punisher.
So for those who don't know at home, because the Punisher's not a super well known, he's very popular in like the 80s, early 90s.
He's the guy with a skull on his shirt that
nobody
shot guns.
Believe me, if those movies got people to know him, there would be movies now. But he was a former cop, Frank Castle, whose family was killed when the mob tried to kill him. But he came back and decided the best way to fight them was to put on a skin-tight suit with a skull on it and hang out in a van with another dude who gave him weapons and kill everybody.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, it felt too gritty, like they had gone too far in one direction. Like I like the idea of, part of my problem with almost every superhero film, until maybe like the last 7 to 10 years, it's happened less, is they would always kill off the villain. Right. And when you kill off the villain, you take away options, like the killing joke.
Spider-Man.
Right. You don't get the killing joke if you kill the Joker.
Right.
You want to see the hero as a problem. Uh-oh.
He kills the Joker at the end.
No!
Oh, yeah.
Did we talk about
canon.
this?
No.
That's canon, right?
Yeah, that's canon.
Yeah.
Well.
No, that's true.
No,
the
We're
Joker's
not messing
dead.
with you.
Thank you for listening to We Got This, and
Batman kills the Joker.
It was supposed to be the last Batman story.
Mm-hmm. And
it's his version of the Superman Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which was the last Superman story.
Right.
Alan Moore loves to kill things. He loves to end
I think
things.
Len actually talked about it on our podcast where he says, like, in the last page of The Killing Joke, it's the Joker laughing and laughing and laughing.
Right.
And Batman laughing.
And Batman laughing. And you
then
hear
only
a snap, and then there's nothing.
And then it's only Batman laughing.
And
then
it's
only Batman laughing.
And they had not started a doo-wop group. You're sure?
Yeah.
That's
Mark,
what the snap was.
Are there any comic book characters that you do not like just from being exposed to them that you didn't care for?
Were there any expose themselves to you?
Yeah.
I had,
Show us on the doll.
She-Hulk exposed herself to me once. Nice. No, again, because I don't come from a vast knowledge of this. I know the ones that are in all the movies. I see all the movies, and no, I've never really, I enjoy them. I'm like, this is fun. This is great. You're a superhero. I do agree with you though, like, I need something with a flaw. Yeah. I need a character. I need it to be hard. Because I look at, like, Batman versus Superman is coming out. I'm like, oh, Superman. Like, it's a guy versus a god. Yeah. Easy. I look at the Avengers and I go, oh, Thor will fix it. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening. And they have to just figure out, I feel like they have to figure out creative ways to cripple the god characters when they put them in these big.
Yeah.
That's my favorite podcast. Thor will fix it.
Thor will fix it.
Thor will fix it.
I thought it was Cripple the Gods.
Cripple the Gods.
I know we weren't
Alan Moore presents Cripple the Gods.
We weren't going to talk about the movies or other media, but like I think that's something that was great about the Superman movies, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, is you felt like there was a guy behind that Superman.
Yes.
Because Christopher Reeve was such...
And they showed you, they showed you him getting picked on as a kid and how big his crush is on Lois Lane when he first gets to the Daily Planet. They did everything they could to make it relatable.
His struggle was internal. It was, here is a guy who could do everything, but he can't bring himself to do it. He can't fight back because he could house these people and he's not going to do that.
Right. I will say that performance, and if you look at, there are many great comic book films that have been made and continue to be made. That is one of the best, if not the best, performance as a hero. Because if you go back and watch it if you haven't seen it in a while.
Part 1 or part 2 or part 3? Part 3, right?
1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Watch him create two completely different characters, Superman and Clark Kent, and it helps you understand. Because that's always the big knock. That's one of the big knocks on Superman is he just takes the glasses off, but you see him embody these characters, and all of a sudden you can go back and read the comics, and he actually enhances them.
Yeah. There's the moment where he's Clark Kent, and he takes off the glasses, and he just stands. He becomes Superman physically. He just stands
his
up
body
and
changes.
Squares his shoulders, and you go, "Holy shit, that's Superman!"
Yeah.
And that's something I still haven't seen in Superman comics, which I really would like to see. And I understand, like great writers have taken a stab at this guy.
Yeah.
And and maybe you just can't do that in comics.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it is really performance based.
Yeah.
I never liked Gambit. What the hell was up with Gambit?
Why was he so popular?
I have no clue. I was like, Gambit. Oh, my shit. Shut up.
I used to mix up Gambit and Longshot.
Sure.
And Longshot was, first of all, not a mutant, but an alien.
Right.
With 4 fingers on each hand.
Yeah.
And his thing was that he was lucky. That was his power.
Did he wear one of those Mickey gloves if he had 4 fingers on each hand?
He did.
Because he could pull off that white glove.
Hey, kids.
I sure am lucky. Oh, welcome to Mojo World.
And I mean, Longshot and Gambit and even Wolverine to an extent, like these are characters that became part of the X-Men mythos when it was growing too big and too vast.
Oh, X-Force.
Like, it was just too hard to jump into any of these. And which is why I really love Marvel now is the books are so accessible.
Yeah.
You may even jump into the middle of a huge thing. Like I picked up one of the Guardians of the Galaxy books, not even the main Guardians book, which I'm loving, and I hate cosmic stuff. I hate space stuff, but I love Bendis's Guardians of the Galaxy. But I picked up some other book because it was part of a tie-in, and I could jump in with no problem because I get who this guy is.
I like that you say that because my thing with comic books and the reason that I never really delved too deep into these worlds is because I've read a lot more than a dozen comic books, but my problem was always I felt like I had to start at episode 1. I would always feel like I would need to start, and I went back and I was like, all right, I'm gonna look at some old Captain America because I like Captain America, and I go back and I'm like, well, I'll start at the beginning. I'm like, well, that was 1945, and wow, they really do not like depicting ethnic minorities in a pleasant way in these.
Or the ones where it feels like you're jumping into X-Files season 5, and
exactly.
you're like, I don't don't know.
But then I cracked into the Spider-Man right now where they're doing the multiple. And I guess at some point I just have to be like, you know what? There's some stuff that's happened in the past that I'm never going to know about. There's 25 Spider-Men here. Some of them are girls. Some of them are a dog. Some of them are whatever. Some of them are actual spiders. Fine. I'm in. Whatever.
Well, and this is also
and drag.
Like, I need to at least know where, how do I know as an outsider, how do I know where an arc starts?
Well, this is also the nice thing about the current state of comics is everything, especially at the big companies, but really everywhere. I mean, we're doing this for Image. We did this for Dynamite with the Flash Gordon stuff that we wrote, that all of the companies are creating monthly comics almost as an afterthought towards making trade paperbacks.
Right.
Like we're doing 4, 5, and 6 issue arcs because those will be collected into a trade paperback, which will sell for $10 to $18 that you can sell in Barnes and Noble. Do those still exist? That you can sell on Amazon.
Just next to the Blockbuster.
Sorry, it's over. It's done. It's closed. Yeah.
But so you'll get a complete story from that 4 to 6 issues.
Okay. That I can, and that's digestible.
And they're numbering them.
digestible.
Yeah.
Right.
It
all makes sense.
I went and I toured the Marvel offices, which are beautiful. And I've now apparently outed myself that I was the worst person to allow to do that.
You were like, where are the Star Wars books?
Yeah. They did have, here's a anecdote from that trip. They have a poster there that I guess was from the early 80s, and it was every Marvel character to date before they had blown up huge and added so many crazy characters. But it was a good, there was a couple hundred characters on this poster. And what we were told on the tour is that only one tour has ever successfully named every single character on that poster.
Who was it?
The Decemberists.
Whoa!
The Decemberists took the tour of Marvel, and between them they named every character.
And then they wrote a shanty about it.
And then they wrote a shanty about it.
That makes me like.
And there's a new character named the Oxford Comma now, I'm sure.
Which
Vampire Weekend.
Oh, we'll do December's versus Vampire Weekend next time.
That'll be a future. It'll be a part 2. How many of the characters did you know?
Oh, like 5. I knew
all the Spider-Men?
Yeah, it was all the
Spider
Spider-Mans.
dogs.
I knew the Spider-Mans and the X-Mens.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3. Amazing Spider-Man.
I was like, so there's, so that's, there's the Hugh Jackman, and who's that next to him over there? Okay, there's there's Patrick Stewart.
That's Jennifer Gardner.
Yeah.
Is that Iowan Grufford?
Yeah. Wait, is that an X-Man or an actor?
He was Mr. Fantastic.
He was for like 10 seconds.
in those Fantastic Four movies.
You got Red Skull because you said there's a guy with a red skull.
I looked at it, I was like, red. Bing! Some of them, if you just look at the picture, you're like, you can name the guy.
Right. That guy.
A guy covered in spiders. That's, Spider-Man. Right. That one over there, that's she's swirling around and making a storm. All right, Storm.
Yeah, that's Storm. I'm gonna call her Storm.
Yeah, we'll call her Storm.
We had a Captain Laserbeam villain, a few years ago named Mr. Octopus. Because that is what my wife thought Dr. Octopus's name was.
Mr.
Like,
Octopus.
oh, he hasn't gotten his doctorate yet.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Octopus.
He was Mr. Octopus.
Mr. Octopus.
He was a Philip Fathom villain.
So here's what I think would be interesting, since Mark has very
we should
little
start getting
knowledge.
interesting now.
Yeah.
Why bother, Hal?
Finally.
I finally started recording, and
Great.
I would like each of you to pitch your respective companies to Mark. Why should he start reading?
Why should I start reading your books?
Yeah.
Because we have Batman.
I am sold.
And I'm done.
You don't have Batman in your book.
Oh, we're pitching our own books?
Also, I don't presently have a Marvel book.
With the upcoming June launch, there's a lot of amazing different kinds of storytelling coming up, including the very funny Bizarro book, which I would very much tell you that you should read. It's very funny. The whole idea is it's Bizarro and Jimmy Olsen starring in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's a good selling point.
Yeah.
Do you know who Bizarro is?
I do know who Bizarro is.
Because of your work on.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, sure.
I do know all the characters that are.
Okay, good, fantastic.
Yes. And Ben?
I'm glad you asked. Mark?
Ben, let's get real.
You have a
here.
choice this fall.
No. First of all, you don't have to wait till June to read great books.
Wow.
I did love your
That's
Wolverine
good.
year one. I've read
Thank
your
you.
Wolverine
Yeah,
year
thank
one.
you
It
very
was
much.
excellent.
Year 2 coming any second.
I think we're going right to Netflix.
Are you?
Yeah. Possibly Yahoo will pick us up.
Oh, good.
At the last minute.
Is Chevy Chase going to be in it?
Certainly not. Yeah, he's going to play Sabretooth. You know Sabretooth, right? Mm-hmm. Mark, you don't have to wait till June to pick up good books. There are dozens, literally dozens of them right now for anything you might feel like. Do you love web-slinging action?
Yeah.
Sure.
You can get Spider-Man, sure. And Dan Slott's having an amazing run on Spider-Man. But do you want your Spider-Man to be a girl?
Yeah.
There are 2 different titles you can pick up.
I have heard about
Spider-Gwen, which is a delightful romp
Good.
from an alternate universe Spider-Man, where she's a teenage girl.
AU.
Also,
AU. Yeah, good.
only it belongs in, it's
okay.
complicated.
For you fanfickers out there.
Silk is a great book about a girl with sort of Spider-Man-esque powers who was locked up for most of her life, and now she is out and trying to live her life, and it's written by Robbie Thompson, my old pal from Supernatural. Check it out.
I will.
Or just sit on your money until June.
Do you want more? Maybe you love the Avengers movies and you want to get into some Avengers.
That's the thing. I do love all of the superhero movies.
Of course.
And
Right.
that's the canon that I know
Yeah.
is from that.
Let me tell you about what Thor is up to in the Marvel Universe right now.
Oh.
More fascinating
Have you gone Thor?
than
Have you gone
she
Thor?
has ever been.
Yes.
Thor is a lady now.
Really?
Lady Thor.
And it's a...
Do they call her Lady Thor?
No,
like
it's just
the Lady
Thor.
Vols called their
just
basketball
Thor.
team of women.
It's just Thor.
It's just Thor.
Right.
She's the new Thor.
And it's fun and it's interesting and it's about, this new character figuring out power so you can jump right in.
Okay.
Maybe you love Iron Man.
I do love Iron Man.
You know what a jerk Robert Downey Jr. is?
Do you mean the actor or his version of Tony Stark?
I'm going to say both.
You know what? I've never met the gentleman. I'm sure he's quite pleasant. But Tony Stark is abrasive.
In the comics, he's even more abrasive these
Oh,
days.
I like abrasive.
It's a little edgier. I think
Batgirl.
for you,
Pitch
you'll like
Batgirl.
it.
You'd like
I'm
Batgirl.
talking about Marvel.
Shut your mouth.
I do like Marvel.
I thought you were talking about good comics.
Here's a Marvel comic that I enjoyed.
Okay.
Because I liked the ride at Disney World, Figment. I knew I would shut all 3 of you up.
Ladies and
doing
gentlemen, thank you for listening to We Got This.
I'm doing
The
children's
Pixar
comics.
tie-ins.
Yeah, I do tie-in comics.
Yeah, you know what's great?
was it-
Archie and Punisher.
You know what I
Archie
heard?
versus Punisher.
I've heard great things about that.
You know what I heard is great? Afterlife with Archie.
Uh-huh.
I haven't read
that's
it yet.
great.
I will
But I
say
heard it's great.
and
Sabrina.
Archie versus Predator is supposed to be really fun.
That's what I hear.
I love Marvel and I love DC, but my first comics love is Archie and the Gang. I've read so much.
I think we can all
so
agree
much
on
Archie.
this.
Yeah, Archie and the Gang are great. Are you familiar with Archie, Jughead? Moose Mason?
Did you just call him Jughead?
Yeah,
I am peripherally familiar.
Do you know Archie Jughead?
Hey, I didn't know where the comma and the question mark were.
Don't be such a moose. Be a Dilton Doily.
No, I didn't really get into Archie.
dive.
Shut up.
Deep dive.
Shut the...
Hey, we don't swear.
We don't
on
swear.
this
I
show.
stopped myself.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said, don't be a Moose Mason, be a Dilton Doily.
Who's Dilton Doily?
He was the
Dilton was
genius.
the
He would
genius.
invent time machines.
Come on. Next
was
thing
like-
you're going to say you don't know who Pure Heart the Powerful is.
Yeah.
From Archie?
That's Archie's superhero alter ego.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can picture that.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, all those kids. Oh, they were the best.
Is Archie Comics the great unifier?
It is. We all love Archie. And
I did love Archie. I loved Richie Rich because I was like, he's so wealthy.
all the Harvey comics.
That's all there is to say about
That's all there
Richie
is to
Rich.
say.
I want to see if we're on the same mind length. Do you remember wavelength, mind length?
Hot stuff?
Who knows? We're
You
making
gonna throw
stuff
hot
up.
stuff at me?
I'm not going to throw hot stuff. The little devil at you.
Okay.
Or Wendy the Witch. Or Casper
Little
the-
Lulu?
This is a Little Lotta,
Little Lotta,
Little Lotta.
sure. Baby Huey.
Dottie or Dot, Lil Dot. This is a Richie Rich comic where his uncle comes to visit. His uncle's also
Scrooge
very
McDuck?
wealthy. No, it is not Scrooge McDuck. Spoiler alert, it is not Scrooge McDuck. his uncle comes, who's also very rich, but is always misplacing his money. It's always dropped. It's like stuffed out of his pockets. He doesn't know where to keep it.
How did he get so rich?
Yeah. And how does he not have a continuous train of people following him?
This is the issue.
Peasants.
He's like, I'm gonna take the bus back to wherever rich town I come from. And Richie Rich is like, he's gonna get robbed. I'm gonna follow him with dollar and make sure that nobody robs him. So it's like Mr. Magoo. If Mr. Magoo is in constant risk of an accident unless somebody else intervenes. It's not dumb luck. Richie Rich is stopping different burglars and muggers along the way.
Why is this guy taking the bus?
Yeah.
I mean, I get there's a whole man
because he lost all his money because it fell out of his pockets.
Sure, he's like, I got this bus card.
But
I may have been wrong about the Riverdale gang bringing us all together.
Why?
But we can all turn against Richie Rich.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, he's the 1%.
he is the 1%.
Richie Rich is the 1%.
The punchline of that is like, hey, hey, uncle, it was really great for you to come visit. He's all sweaty because he's been thwarting all these crimes. And his uncle's like, well, don't say goodbye yet. I'm going to live here in this crappy part of town because it's so safe. Wah, wah.
And then they found
He is
him
a
dead.
terrible
He was dead a
idiot
week
with
later.
money.
Yeah.
He was
In a cat suit, hanging from his closet.
and that's how Casper was created. It's actually Richie Rich's uncle. Canon.
That is my favorite
I always
theory.
thought that Richie Rich, the Casper
Looked like dead Richie Rich.
Was dead Richie Rich.
Yeah. Casper
No,
looks
I
like dead
swear to
Richie
God,
Rich.
I thought that was the truth. I was like, oh, he's dead Richie Rich.
If you like Richie Rich, you're gonna love the dead Richie Rich.
Yes.
Casper the friendly ghost.
Yes. It's a little macabre, but that's what I always thought.
Why not? Characters die all the time.
Sure.
But there's the only character I remember in either Marvel or DC that was dead for a significant amount of time was the original Captain Marvel.
Right.
Who died in like 1982
Died
from
of
cancer.
Died
It
of
was like
cancer.
it was a very solemn thing and
I know Marvel likes dealing with issues, but
Yeah.
jeez. I just wanted to throw out a comic while we're going with the old Archie, Richie Rich era.
Do it.
I preferred Bazooka Joe because it came with gum.
Because it was in Hebrew.
Sure.
If any comic that gave you food as well.
Yeah, that's also why I like Topps baseball cards. Sure. Because they had that stick of gum that was the most brittle stick of gum you would ever.
terrible.
Well, good news. Every single issue of Shazam now comes with a sleeve of Thin Mints.
I'll tell you what.
So you're gonna love.
Milkshakes.
Where's this DC jerk? I got some Shazam questions for you.
Okay.
The Shaq movie?
Yeah.
Great.
You think of Kazam.
Oh, right.
Please.
I have Shazam questions also. I
do?
want to hear if yours are the same as mine.
Probably it's this. What's up with that guy?
I don't know.
Shazam is Captain Marvel.
Shazam was Captain Marvel. They have changed it, so now his name is Shazam.
Okay.
And just to answer your question, he has to say it in a certain way to
That's right.
change.
He has
It
to
is
tell
not
that story.
if
He has to say Shazam, and then he turns
he says
into.
it in a certain way with a certain invocation in order to turn into the character. Because I got the question over and over again after Justice League War. He introduces himself to Wonder Woman. Why wouldn't he just turn back into Billy Batson?
Yeah.
And I said, first of all, you're angry about a cartoon.
Yes.
Second of all,
Oh, have you met the internet?
I appreciate the passion, but like any magic words, you have to say it in a certain way.
Yes.
So here's-
Shazam.
Picture it like Siri. If you don't say it in a certain way, you are not going to change. You're not going to get your
I do not
directions.
understand, Heath.
Yeah. What is Shazbot?
Here are a list of Greek gods nearby.
Right.
You just wrote a sketch.
Thank you.
But so here's my thing with Shazam. I like him in your movie.
Yes.
I think you did a good job writing him, and I feel like there's a lot of potential in that character because he is literally a 10-year-old child in the body of
a superhero.
Yeah, of a
Yes.
superhero. But has there ever been a great Shazam story? It just seems like it's just been wasted.
Mark Waid did really cool stuff with him in Kingdom Come. He was sort of the
Sure,
fulcrum
but that's
in
a
Kingdom
different
Come. Yeah.
kingdom, like anything in the universe.
Well, again, you're dealing with a character from 75 years ago from Timely Comics that was sort of hokey. Like, it was a very goofy... I mean, Billy Batson was a 10-year-old cub reporter for a radio station. Like,
We don't have any of those things anymore.
right. Who hires a 10-year-old.
Wait, we don't have 10-year-olds anymore? Everyone just skips from 9 to 11?
Outlawed.
But what about the big, exciting double-digit birthday party?
Nope.
All right, nope.
Oh. Man, that was the best one.
I think the problem with that character is that it begs a good reboot. I know that Jeff Johns did some stuff with them in the backup stories in Justice League that were smart because he made Billy Batson not such a goody two-shoes.
But then there's also, and I remember this from like when Jeff Johns was writing Justice Society of America, which I really liked. I liked a lot of the new characters he invented, the new like Mr. Terrific.
And the new Sandman.
Yeah.
Some very cool stuff in that.
What was her name? The Star Spangled Girl. What is she called?
Girl.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Those are really fun. And he did stuff with Shazam in there. But there was also like the whole Marvel family.
Yeah.
Yes,
Billy
again,
Batson,
that's my question.
Mary Batson.
Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Marvel.
Who would say Captain Marvel to turn into Captain Marvel Jr.
Yeah.
What?
He had to say the name of his favorite hero to turn into Captain Marvel
Was it
Jr.
Billy Batson's dad turned into a superhero little kid?
That would be, oh, you just cracked it.
Well, I
He
feel
turned into
like
a baby. Well, there was the Uncle Marvel, who had no powers.
Uncle Marvel, but he got an outfit.
Yes.
And then there was
Mary Marvel.
And there was a tiger.
Yeah.
There was a talking tiger.
It was actually Crypto in an outfit. He's done it again and disguised as another.
Damn it, Crypto, get out of here!
But do they not exist anymore? Those
I think those guys are all out of continuity. They're all out of continuity.
Well, I think there is a great sort of Batgirl-esque series in there about whether it's Captain Marvel or the Captain Marvel family or whatever. Like there's fodder in there, and it's just crazy to me that DC has never minded.
You know, Grant Morrison did a multiversity just about the Captain Marvel family, but it was very classic, timely, like 1940s style story.
Right.
It wasn't like a modern retelling. It was just all of those characters back against Dr. Savannah. And it was,
but I feel like if you grab someone who's like writing Adventure Time or any of those, like the Boom tie-in, the Boom license books, could kill a Captain Marvel.
Wasn't there? I might be wrong about this, so don't yell at me online.
I'm getting ready to yell at you.
Jeff Smith Shazam, wasn't
there?
It
was
fantastic.
Beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
But the story was okay. And I think it was just a few issues.
It was really fun. It was a miniseries.
The Doc Shaner Shazam art. Because the first time I saw his work, and the first time I was familiar with it was him drawing Cactoid Jim in the Thrilling Adventure Hour graphic novel. I thought, this guy was born to draw Captain Marvel, not realizing he had changed to Shazam. But all right, we're nearing the end here.
Well, wait, just to wrap up on that. I agree with you that there is a really interesting version of that leans on the Marvel aspects of it, where this character is not sophisticated and not smart and not mature, and therefore does these things. Right. And makes things worse than better sometimes. And I think that's a really interesting take. And I've never seen anything like that. But that's kind of what I was doing with Justice League, with the character in Justice League War, is like, he's clearly a child. And nobody knows that. So they treat him like an adult, and they're always like, what's going on?
Well,
this guy's so weird.
This has been the problem that DC has had for years, is they have great concepts, but they make it overcomplicated, or they make it for the wrong audience, or you know what? Like again, like we said, there hasn't been a great Wonder Woman run, and I liked like Azzarello did one at a relaunch, which I really liked, but then it became this convoluted thing.
It became Thor.
Yeah, and I think you have to. There's something to keeping the characters very pure, and I think the best books right now, whether it's Fractions Hawkeye or whether it's Gotham Academy, have a very pure concept at the core of it.
Or Miss Marvel.
My favorite book right now.
Yeah.
All right. This has been very interesting. Mark has been asleep for only a quarter of it.
Has it been interesting?
It was more of his eyes were glazed over. He went into like a hypersleep.
You have covered everything.
And nothing.
That I did know. And everything that I still don't.
I'm very, very smart. I'm actually an official DC historian.
Are you really?
True. Yes, that's true.
Oh, I do have a question for you, Heath.
Wait,
Who is
hold
Batman?
on. Explain that first.
Okay. I was asked to come in to do an interview for EPK on a movie that I didn't write.
Explain EPK.
Oh, sorry. Electronic press
Not
kit.
to Mark, to the listener.
Oh,
I feel like I had to know something this episode.
So they called me and said, hey, we want you to come in and do an interview for this movie. And I said, I didn't write that movie. And they said, haha, that's funny. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Okay. And I said, no, I didn't write that movie. And they said, oh, you're so modest. We'll see you then. And then they sent me a list of questions and I wrote back, guys, this is awesome. Happy to do it. I did not write this movie. And they were like, oh, that's awesome. We'll see you at 10. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I started getting like texts and like crazy, like bing, bing, bing. And I was like, what's going on? And it is an email that says, you didn't write this movie. And I was like, this is what I've been telling you. And they said, well, we like you. You clearly know what you're talking about. So we want to see if we can still bring you in. So they called DC and they asked my executive, Mike Carlin at DC Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, just say Heath's an official DC historian.
Wow.
So I am now an official DC historian. I'm credited as a DC historian on this DVD extras.
The pedigree in this room, I had no idea.
Isn't that ridiculous?
So Mark and I need to make a decision here.
Yes. That's a tough call because DC does have Batman. I feel like I should show respect to DC, but I really love...
So is your answer, I feel like you're coming to a different answer.
I gotta stay. I love Marvel. I love the Marvel universe that's been created.
I vote Marvel as well. Look,
I don't care what either of you guys feel in your heart as long as you buy Bizarro coming out in June.
We will buy
Bizarro.
Say, when does Bizarro come out?
Bizarro drops in June.
It drops in June. This could be out in June. Who knows? It could be out now. You just go around to neighborhood comic book stores and ask them for Bizarro and don't leave till they give it to you. But here's the point, people. You can read a variety of comics and you should read a variety of comics. But in the end, if you're looking for the brand that has put out superior work for longer, that has maybe been consistent in its effect on culture, consistently without their periods, Marvel started in a very relatable place and it's continued there even though their stories have gotten fantastic. DC, however, at the same time has created iconic characters that no doubt have shaped pop culture. But if you look at how DC, and Ben alluded to this earlier, if you look at how DC is writing their comics now, that's the effect of the new kid on the block coming in and absolutely changing the game. So get yourself some Marvel comics, people. You're adults, some of you now.
And also Bizarro.
Yeah.
Get yourself Bizarro.
And Bizarro.
Yes.
Read everything is the point.
Well, see, I think the point is find what speaks to you.
Yes,
the point is comic books are fun, as I have learned in the last hour.
Right.
Find what speaks to you, and what speaks to each and every one of you are Marvel comic books. So make sure if you buy 7 comics, 4 are Marvel and 3 are DC. We have to keep the balance right, people.
Go buy 7 comics.
That is the ruling. Ben Blacker, you have something to say.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap this up as we wrap up every Nerdist Writers Panel Comics edition
Sure.
by asking, what are you reading?
And how are you reading it? Do you go to the store? Or do you buy digitally?
I do. I've done both. I went down a deep hole with the Marvel comic app. It was a very deep hole, ladies and gentlemen. No, I got the Marvel app like a while back, and before I could blink, I had spent $100 on comic books because I started reading. I started with Avengers versus X-Men.
Why didn't you get
Marvel Unlimited?
Because it didn't. This was a few years ago. So I've avoided digital and I read physical comics.
Do you have it now?
I do not have it now.
Okay, Marvel Unlimited is $10 a month for like unlimited 14,000 comics. You wouldn't spend $100.
I like the physical feel of a comic book in my hands. I like reading them and then putting them down and then sharing them with people. I know you can do a lot of that.
That's great. Do you also go inside and stand in line at the bank?
Yes, I love it. Right? I just love standing in line.
Do you go buy your tickets at the movie theater?
No, I'm not an animal.
Right.
I have an affinity.
Do you go to restaurants and eat them there?
Yes, I ate a whole restaurant the other day.
You have an affinity? Are we talking about the Affinity Gauntlet?
Yes, I ate the Infinity Gauntlet inside of a restaurant. It was a pop-up. What am I reading right now? I've just started the Star Wars, which is brand new. I just read issue 2, which I really like. I think it's good.
The flagship miniseries.
The flagship miniseries.
Check out Princess Leia.
I will. I've heard good things.
Check out Darth Vader.
Yes.
Check out Kanan.
Okay.
And I have not. There's a Lando one that was just announced.
Yeah,
that I'm sure is very.
But Charles Soule's doing.
All 4 of those are all right. Yes,
that's awesome.
I am also because I just gobbled down the Netflix miniseries. I was with Mr. Blacker the other day, and he gave me 3 collections of
Mark Waid
Daredevil comics to read. So that's what's
good.
up next.
Those are fun.
And the Sparks Nevada books. Honestly, I've been reading those, and they're great.
Have you read Hawk Guy?
I read when I went to visit Marvel as well, and I got a stack of comics from Jordan and from Blake Garris, and so I've started to read through them. Some I liked, some of the Ultimate stuff I don't really care for.
That's right, the universe is gone.
But it's good stuff. I also have some Green Lantern collections that I'm reading that are like Tales of the Corps that are pretty cool. So those are the comics that I'm reading right now. How about you, Mark?
Right now I am reading, again, I'm fairly new to this.
Remember where you bread buttered.
I'm reading the Sparks Nevada comics.
Because your picture is on it.
My pictu's on it. You guys, my picture's on a comic book.
That's
I was very
face.
excited. My face is on the outside of a comic book.
Comic Star.
And if you come meet us at a con, and Mark will be at, and Hal too will be at all the cons we're doing this year, you can get them to sign your book.
That we
what cons are we doing?
Did not write. Don't you hold your horses. Let me finish.
Later?
Let me finish. You'll promote at the end.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
Plugs is my favorite.
The other thing I am reading right now is I got the new Howard the Duck because it's the guy that did Sex Criminals is writing
Starsky.
Howard the Duck now.
Look at you.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's really fun.
And Sex Criminals is great.
Sex Criminals. And I have this, I have a book that, when we went over to Marvel, that Blake gave me, Blake and Jordan, same deal, lovely guys, and Lorraine Sink as well. Wanted to say hi.
I'm sure.
Yes. Hi, Lorraine.
If they hear this. It's a book of, vintage, it's this vintage Captain America book. So it's all of the original drawings. Jack Kirby, I guess, was doing them.
Joe Simon?
And then, but it's all new, painting.
Oh, cool.
So the coloring is all beautiful, and 14 it came out, but it's all the original, black ink drawings. So that's really,
very
and
cool.
it's absolutely beautiful.
Very cool.
I had just started reading that new Howard the Duck, and it's very fun. He's one of my favorite characters ever.
Yeah.
And I just picked up, my friend Jeff King's Convergence. 0, 1, and 2, and I am yet to dive into those.
Is that the next in the Divergent movie series?
Yes, it's they divert, then they
Divergent,
converge,
Insurgent,
then they
Convergent,
Like the universe.
Yes,
The universe
Detergent.
itself.
That's
Detergent.
the next one.
So I'm reading the Convergence books. I'm starting to read those, and I'm very excited to read those. That's it.
Yeah, Jeff King is great. He's
Jeff
doing
King
Grayson, right?
Tom King is doing
Tom King
great.
is doing great. I'm enjoying Grayson.
Grayson's great.
I'm mostly following writers these days.
Me too.
I really loved what Jerry Duggan was doing on Deadpool.
It's pronounced Dugan.
So I went, his Hulk
I think
is
it's
great.
Dugong, right?
His Nova is great. And he's doing one other book, I forget what it is. But like everything he's doing is really good and really fun, and again, like just simple stories, well told. And he's working with good artists too.
Did you read Nick Spencer's Ant-Man?
I did. I like it.
I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
I
And
like that
it's,
guy.
Again, it's what Marvel's doing really well right now, which is just letting these sort of B-level books or heroes be in their own world.
Yeah.
They're not overwhelmed by other stuff.
Absolutely right up my alley. My kind of thing.
Yeah, Ms. Marvel is still my favorite. It has the feel for, I think, Mark, you would enjoy it, because it has the feel of like 60s Spider-Man.
Ms. Marvel does?
She's a teenager who gets superpowers and has to deal with it. Only
I love that.
In her world, the Avengers already exist, so it's like, how do you contend with that?
Right. And she's from a strict Muslim family, and she's trying to balance her family and this power. It's really fun. Really inventive.
There's a lot of
I remember when this was in the news.
Yeah.
I will check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silk is great that Robbie Thompson's doing. There's a lot of these sort of, again, not like flagship books that are really
Still an
good.
Astro City fan. I just read the latest Astro City. I think those are such smart, cool books, and I've loved that they've continued through the years. So the characters they introduced years ago have now aged in real time, which I think is great.
It's really smart.
It's really smart.
I just started reading today, because I'm interviewing Kate Leith, who is writing it, the Edward Scissorhands book, which I thought, how could this possibly be good? Like,
It's just a hairstylist, right?
Right. But it's really good. It's really smart, and
She's great.
it's expanding the world, and the art is really beautiful.
She did a Fraggle Rock run.
Yeah.
Also.
She did Fraggle Rock Run. I think she writes.
I liked that was the Fraggle Rock that
one of the other licensed
Archaea did.
books.
That
Yeah.
big thick.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I liked that.
Do they do Fraggle Rock meets Archie? Fraggle Rock beats the Archie.
Yeah, Archie.
You can swear. This is
Sorry, Archie.
Oh, this is your.
Yeah.
This is your.
That's what I figured.
You know what? Well, all the cursing is on the
It's
Nerdist
so
Writers
uncomfortable
panel.
when I do it too. He just gives the.
Well, he's never heard a curse word before. This is his first time listening to them. You can't say that, Mark.
Can't say what.
That on television.
Oh, I don't know.
I did it.
Slime.
Slime it. You got.
That's it.
Isn't that what they said
Isn't
on that show?
Yeah, they would slime him, and then Barf would be like, "You got I heard that."
Every time I do it, you give the uncomfortable Johnny Carson sidekick.
Yeah.
Like every time.
Yo.
Like, you're like, I don't know what to do. I can't feel my cheeks.
Is this how you guys end your podcast?
Yeah, so we end it with
Usually just turn off
a
Heath's mic.
series of F words. Since we're the guests, but we've solved this discussion, let's end every podcast the way we end ours, which is I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
And don't worry, everybody. We got this.
And now they're kissing.
And let's end how we always end. I'm Hal Lublin,
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
etc.
We got this.